Hi folks, welcome to day four already, and welcome if you're not joining live class and whenever you're picking this up. And that's the beauty of recording these live classes, that you can catch up at any time that suits you. So Hayley, I've just seen a post that you put up on Slack to say that the pull of going out for a walk is strong now. So please, I hope you've enjoyed your walk by the time you get to this class. So just whilst a few of you are sort of still checking in, and I can see now we've got a few people saying good morning. Hi Gillian, hi Patricia, hi Louise. So I probably can't say all of you, otherwise I'll be here for the entire lesson. Slack seems to be working really well, and many of you are asking questions, and what you will find is that unless it's what I'm not going to do is get into sort of a personal individual things, but if it's a question that I believe probably a few of you are asking, then or I think it's a particularly good question and that I think everyone would benefit from, then I'll answer it in these classes. It just is easier to answer it to everybody rather than trying to sometimes write something down that you want to say or in fact demonstrate. So that's what I'll do, that sometimes I will answer the question in the classes. So, and a couple of good questions come up yesterday. The question of thighs and the feeling that the thighs get particularly just above your knees, or you're only using part of your thighs to stand in Wu Chi. This is why I teach Wu Chi right from the beginning, because it is the hardest thing to get comfortable in. And there are many reasons for that. It doesn't mean to say that you're unhealthy or you haven't got strong thighs. You know, you might be an avid walker, but an avid walker or an avid cyclist, you will repeat those walking movements or pedaling movements, and you will therefore train certain muscles. So you may have, let's say, strong thighs, strong calves if you are a cyclist or an avid walker, but you're training those muscles that are going to help you with those particular activities. When we come to standing Wu Chi, some people will perhaps say to themselves, well, this is not an activity. I'm not physically doing anything. You are physically keeping yourself standing by not using your joints. So actually your muscles are working a lot, and they are working to keep your body still in one place and your entire body without using those knees. So if you are feeling troubled with your thighs, as in they're a bit sore, or you're finding that there's certain areas of thighs you're not using yet, it is completely normal. And it is through practice that you are going to learn how to engage the entire thighs. So how to engage those thighs? A couple of ways that might help you. You don't have to do this now, or you can if you want, it's entirely up to you. But when we're standing in Wu Chi, remember, it isn't just a posture, it's a state of being. But saying that, I appreciate that you've got to be comfortable to achieve, you've got to be physically comfortable to achieve a nice, calm state of being. They're all linked. So a couple of things you can do. The first thing is, imagine that you're on a beach and you've dug 2 holes and you're standing in those 2 holes, and you fill those holes back up with the sand right up to your knees. Okay? And you can imagine it in the earth if you wish to. Just that analogy, just that feeling, just that visualization of your lower legs and feet being buried in the ground can sometimes take the pressure away from your thighs. The other thing you can do, instead of or as well as, is play with how much you've bent your knees. Now, we shouldn't bend them too much, but because we're all individual, it really is a case of finding your own comfort zone where you are engaging all your thighs, but you are not, do not have any pressure in your knees. So when you're standing, it's really good just to pulse up and down. Find that, when I say pulse, I mean the whole body does this. It's like a spring. Find that place where you just still for a moment, see how it goes, and then what you might have to do is during your stand, it may be 10 seconds later, it may be 10 minutes later, think, oh, I need to just adjust my posture very slightly now. So it is this training of awareness that's going to allow you just to gently and very subtly adjust your posture to suit you. And in time, you will just click into that posture, you'll find it. Touch your thighs where you want to engage them. You can touch, you can tap. Let's say you want to engage the top of your thighs, give them a good old tap. Then come into Wu Chi where you've stimulated the upper thighs, bring your awareness to that and engage them. So that's a really another technique that we can use too. We can also imagine our thighs, visualize our thighs as buoys. Buoys as in the floating, colourful buoys that we see in the sea. And the thighs, right from the top of your knees into your pelvis, all around, and again you can tap behind your thighs to bring awareness to them, become buoys that are floating in your outer ocean. So I've mentioned we've got an inner ocean. Well, stand in the outer ocean. I've mentioned that we're swimming through thick air. So again, to broaden that connection and as if we are standing in the ocean and the buoys are bobbing at the surface. And again, this bobbing action creates this pulsing, this spring-like action. So eventually you will become very still within standing in Wu Chi. But in the early days, seek your comfort rather than the stillness at this stage. Eventually the stillness will come, but you've got to get comfortable in order to become still. So I hope those analogies, those visualizations, those techniques, one or some or all, will help you to engage the thighs and take the pressure away from the knees. If you're standing in Wu Chi, we're standing in Wu Chi in class, and after a few moments you're thinking, oh, I'm becoming uncomfortable. Remember, there's no suffering. Shake out. Don't wait for me to say it. You just listen to your body and come back into the stance. The other thing is when you're standing and you found this, at that moment, at that present moment, some comfort, play with your balance. And what I mean by that is make sure that you're not standing heavy deep into your heels. Okay, so in fact, I'd like to practice with you now because I think it's a really good thing to sense. So if you wouldn't mind just standing up for a moment, I'll let you all stand up. Bear with me a second. So what I'd like you to do is standing Wu Chi. We're just playing with balance at this stage. Bring your attention to your lower back. Okay, so let's touch it. Let's give the lower back a bit of a tap, a touch, a rub. Okay, so now our awareness is there. From your core, the center of gravity, bring your whole center of gravity forward just a little bit. So we've gone from the, let's say, the middle of the feet, and we're going to go into the balls of the feet, not the arches. It doesn't mean I lean forward. I'm not doing this. I'm keeping my heaven and earth connection, my nice straight connection here, but I'm bringing my whole body subtly over to the balls of my feet. Okay, so here you're potentially going to feel tension in your knees and almost like you're grabbing on to the ground with your toes to prevent you from falling forward. Okay, so notice the knees not comfortable and that tendency to always gripping on. So our stress alert is quite awake here. We don't want that. Let's do the opposite. Very gently, don't lean back, but bring your center of gravity to the center of over your arches, and now bring them to the center of your heels, and I'd like you to bring your awareness to where you rubbed your back. And again, what you may well feel here is your back, your spine actually compressing and closing because you're putting all your weight, your center of gravity is now being carried by your lower spine. Now your knees might feel better, but your back is going to be under a lot of pressure here. And this is a stance that so many people take, not realizing it. And even sometimes, if I overdo this, this starts to happen. We end up with this bow-like body. And people will stand quite often like this, using their lower back as a pivot for their entire body. So straighten up your spine. You might want to look in the mirror when doing this. Bring your weight of your shoulders over your pelvis, over your knees, over the center of your feet, the arches. Play with that balance. So go forward, come back, and then find the center. Good. Now play with your left and right. So don't lean, shift weight, center of gravity over left just a little, right, and then come to the center. Forward, back. And you can do this as often, as much as you like, until you find it's like a plumb line, a plumber's plumb line, where they drop the lead weight and they wait until it's still to get that perfect straight line. This is essentially what we are doing here. Connect the crown of your head, long body, not a bowed body or even sticking your bottom out. Relax your lower back. So again, that's going to be able to help with feeling the pressure in your feet and the sides of your feet, sometimes on the inside of your feet. It's because we are sort of imbalanced with our weight. So again, that's something else for you to play with and to try. And it's worth it. It is 100% worth getting this right and having the patience with yourself just to play with this. It's not a case of, well, I can't do this. We all can do this. It's just a little bit of patience. You're on this challenge to create positive habits that are going to make you feel and be well. So you've got to put that time and effort in to do that. So speaking of habits, so I hope that helps with those questions that were asked yesterday. Have a play with them, spend a few days with them, and let's see where we go, and please feedback. With regards to habits, again in Slack, I think Phil mentioned that when standing in Wu Chi, there's this overriding feeling that I want to get out of this dance and be doing something. Why am I being still? And that's because we very, very, very rarely are still. So this is what we call a habit energy. That habit energy of when we're still, it feels like we're being pulled to and itching to go and do something else because I'm wasting time. There could be stuff that I could be doing now. I could be, whatever it is, you name it, we've all got plenty of stuff to do, and that stuff's always going to be there. That stuff to do, that long list, to-do list of hours, all of ours, I've got my own, is always going to be there. Always going to be there. We'll always find something to do, always find somehow to keep ourselves busy. And we become really good at that. That habit energy becomes so strong in us, we become professionals at keeping ourselves busy. And it's exactly then that we are busy and we don't give ourselves that time to be still, that time to be able to listen to those inner voices, our inner voice, our intuition, that eventually things go pop, things go wrong, health. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, we are not listening. We need time to be still, to turn the busyness down so that we start to listen internally. And it's not easy because this habit energy that you've created, you've become so good at that it is a habit now. You just get yourself in the habit of doing all of these things and keeping yourself busy, and you actually start to have a go at yourself. And I've heard this so many times that you start feeling guilty when you do take some time out for yourself to be still. Now's the time to change that. Now's the time to realize that it is an energy, and that energy, that habit energy, can be changed. When you feel that overriding pull of something to go and be doing something when you're standing in Wu Chi, when you're being still, just come back to your breathing, sink your mind into your body, Yi Dao, Qi Dao, and bring your awareness, a new energy, to how you're breathing. Make that your new energy. Your stance, your balance, your weight shifting, your sunken feet in the sand or the earth, your connection to heaven and earth. All of these skills now are there to help you to delve deeper inside of you, to notice, to correct, to adjust, to create a nurturing, nourishing inner flow, rather than you ignoring all of that and going to get on with the washing up, emptying the dishwasher, answering the emails. And actually, on a serious note, is looking after someone else. Sometimes we have other people that we have to care for, and that takes a lot of our energy and our time up. Remember that you have to be well within yourself in order to be able to look after other people. So if you are in that position where you need to care for someone else, that might not be physically because you can't see them at the moment because they might be a distance away from you. However, if you need to create that time, that energy to get in contact with them, make sure this is happening for them, that's happening, that's all time and energy that you need to do. Make sure you yourself are in a good place first. You're nurturing you first. Because if you're not nurtured, if you're not well within you, how can you effectively help others without burning out sooner rather than later? So it's really, really key and important to nurture yourself, to spend some time being still and movement. So I hope that I've answered some of your questions. I hope that some of those skills, techniques, visualizations are going to be able to help you adjust, and we're going to find that out over the next few days. Like I said, please keep in touch, let me know. I hope that reiterating the habit energy, that seed of knowing that it is a habit energy and habits can be changed. It's up to you to change them consciously and not get lost in that and not get frustrated with that, empowers you to actually take charge of it. So let's do some movement. Let's do some Wu Chi and some breathing, some compressing the pearl, and moving on to the second movement. Okay, so yesterday, let me move this. Yesterday, I mentioned that I'm just going to slowly introduce the warm-ups that we do, and yesterday we did the shake. Today we're going to do what we call the slosh. So we're all going to get sloshed together. The slosh is like pouring. So imagine we have a bowl, a bucket, a washing up bucket, bowl. We pour some water in there, and very gently we tilt the bucket. Could you do this with me now? Tilt that bucket, visualize what the water's doing as you tilt it. One way, we fill the water that way, and we just slowly watch. We're doing this really slowly, deliberately, intentionally. And then let's change it. Slowly, the water fills the other side of the bucket. The water is the inner ocean, our inner ocean. And as I mentioned, the inner ocean is where our blood, bodily fluids, chi, that movement of chi, our life force, are all connected. And by doing this movement with Yi Dao, Qi Dao, so with our mind having this visualization that we're pouring our inner ocean, we're sloshing the inner ocean from one side of the body to the other. So that's what we're doing. So we would have been in Wu Chi, we may have done a little bit of a shake as we did yesterday. Take a slightly wider stance, please. Now, when you take a slightly wider stance, you don't have to have your feet so parallel. As long as your knees are pointing in the line of your toes, that's what we're looking for. When you do this, and I mentioned this yesterday when someone mentioned that their knees were hurting a little bit, so they preferred it was more comfortable for the feet to go out. Make sure you turn your leg out, not from your knee, but from your hip and your quad. So if you are somebody, and there are many people with knees that come in a little bit, don't try and force the knee out. Turn your leg out from here, your hip, and you'll find that will ease the pressure on your knee as well. So a slightly wider stance. Connect to heaven and earth. Now, as we did with the Wu Chi, when we transferred the weight very slowly, we're going to do exactly the same thing now, but the movement's going to be bigger because our stance is wider. So whichever direction you go in, it doesn't matter. Transfer your gravity, your center of gravity over to one leg, 70%, not 100, and it's not a lean. We're not the Leaning Tower of Pisa, okay? We are the Pyramid of Giza. So we don't want to be leaning. A pyramid is nice and strong at the base. Nothing's going to move that. They've been around for thousands of years. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is tilting. Whether that's going to be around for thousands of years, unlikely. So we want to have that foundation on the ground. bring your weight over one side, back. Now you are going to bend your knees, you're going to soften your knees, you're going to sink into the quad. Don't lean forward. Let me stand to the side, see if this is any better for you. As I go down, I'm sitting in, so I'm perching my buttock onto a stool, a little lower stool. Up, I'm perching my buttock. So if you put your karate chop of your hands in the inguinal creases either side of your pubic bone, when you sink down, you'll feel that your hand sinks into the fold of this crease here. That's what you're looking for. Again, this helps to open up the sluice gates, activate the pelvis, strengthen your hips. Okay, so now relax your hands, you've got this fixed. And now, like that bucket of water, when you get the momentum going, the water fills one side, slowly pour it to the other side. If you'd like to close your eyes, if you feel safe to, then please do so. Otherwise, keep them open. If you're sitting down, then you just transfer your weight from buttock to buttock. Breathe freely. Yi Dao, Qi Dao. Where your mind goes, your Qi is going, your inner ocean is going. So now visualize the ebb and flow of the water sloshing. Use your mind to guide your inner ocean all the way to one side of the body. Fill it up and fill the other side. It's never completely empty or full because we're constantly moving. Because this is slow and deliberate and intentional, you are going to be engaging those thighs again. So you may be feeling it in your thighs now. That's normal. Good. Just check in with the inguinal creases. Are still, you're folding into it. We haven't gone into a bad habit and started to lean back. Okay, so this warm-up we call sloshing. And it's just as much engaged with the mind as it is physically. Well done. Okay, come back to the center, have a little shake out. So that's sloshing. It's far better to get sloshed that way than through alcohol. There are no headaches with this one. So back into your Wu Qi. Let's connect. Heaven and earth, you in the center. That's our first layer. Now, perhaps you might like to add one of those techniques I mentioned earlier about your stance if you need that. For all of us, let's just play and adjust with the balance and the weight. Make sure that we're plumb line over the center of our feet. Palms turn, space in the armpits. Breathe. Belly breathe. As soft as cotton and silk. Good. Now let your hands float out in front of you, palms down, keeping that space in your armpits. It's really important. We don't want to close this area. Keep it open to allow the flow. I guess today when we were paying attention to the palms and the space between the palms, this is what we call feel or discovering your chi. So if I say feel or discover your chi, this is what we're doing. Good. And with your breath, your inhale, gently start movement 1, compressing the pearl. Breathe in, breathe out. Puppet movement, softening your joints, allowing this ripple, gentle wave-like motion. %70. Yi Dao, Qi Dao. Sink your mind into your body. Good. Well done. Okay, so go super slow now. Don't stop, but go really slowly. And on your next exhale, as your hands slowly start to come in, just continue that. But as they come in now, what I'd like you to do is turn your palms so they face your upper thighs. Fingers point down so they are pointing to the ground, probably in line with your feet, your toes. Space in the armpits, so I'm going to turn to the side. You don't turn, but I just want to show you where my arms are in relation to my body. Okay, not here, but out in front. So from here, in this position, we're going to use the elbow, I'm going to bend the elbow. Notice what happens to my hand when I do that. Elbow and bends, hands just rising. So you're going to bend both elbows to let the hands float up using this water analogy. Now try and keep your palms facing your body. And ideally you want the hands, but the hands, not the shoulders, the hands to come up to what we call the shoulder nests. Okay, so that's the first part of this next movement. This is going into movement 2 now. So relax your arms. Your shoulder nests, I'd like you just to connect with them and feel them. Your collarbone, so the bones that come from here right across to your shoulders, and underneath the collarbone there's a little dip. Underneath the collarbone there's a little dip. Prod those two sides. Feel that dip, connect with the dip here and here. Okay, so this is what we call the shoulder nests. And your arms, your hands are going to travel up the left and right hand side of your body, palms are, to your shoulder nests, ideally, if your hands can get up to this high. Well, make sure this doesn't happen. You're bending your elbows, creating this wing-like motion in order to open up the underside, your armpits, to allow the freedom of your hands to move up without engaging your shoulders. Ready? Palms float out in front of you, they're facing your thighs, fingers pointing down. Bend both elbows, let your hands slowly float up. You might feel that you have to open up your chest a little bit to the shoulder nests. Good. Now from here, the hands are going to come away from you, turn your palms and come back down to where we started. Let's do that together. Hands float up, bending elbows to shoulder nests. In one smooth movement, they turn away, they fly away from you, turning your whole arm, this gentle turning from your forearm, from your elbows. Palms turn, they face back down, fingers point down over your toes. Space in the armpits, come back up. Shoulder nests, fly away and down. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. So your inhale allows the hands to float up. Your exhale, they fly away. When we do this repetition, it is very easy sometimes for the shoulders to slowly start to take over. Become aware of what your shoulders are doing, keep them still. Use your breath to move. Okay. Gently let that go. Shake out. Well done. And welcome to movement 2, flying hands. Movement 1, compressing the pearl. Movement 2, flying hands. Flying hands really does engage your spine and your shoulder blades as well as your neck and shoulders. So if you start feeling achy in your back, in your spine, the center here, when doing flying hands, it's natural. Just by doing this movement the way that you've just been doing it without engaging your shoulders, you are using your shoulder blades to move rather than just the shoulders. And this is key because so often the shoulder blades get stuck to the rib cage, and the fascia between so your shoulder blades should glide over your rib cage, but without conscious movement and doing that, they get stuck. And what happens is we start to get these sort of what's referred to as knots. We've all probably heard, oh, I've got a knot here, and well, actually, that's your fascia knotting up, not necessarily your muscle. In fact, more often than not, it's the fascia, and we stop this glide. And when we stop the glide, we prevent that range of motion from the arm. But if you think what the arm's connected to, the shoulder, so that starts to prevent movement of the shoulder. Then the rib cage is attached to the rib cage, so then the ribs, the intercostal muscles between your ribs don't open and close. Then that starts to affect your lungs because your rib cage hasn't got the optimal range of movement that it could have, all because your shoulder blade is glued itself to your rib cage because we haven't learned how to move that. So again, another reason why I'm quite intricate with the way that we move is because everything's connected, as I've just explained. And one simple thing like this can really affect how we breathe and even the heartbeat and how the heart works. So, and because that's connected here, you're going to get potential feelings of achiness here. Now, achiness is fine to deal with. Pain isn't. So we can take achy, but we're not going to work with pain. Okay, so if you do find that this slowly starts to create pain, it's because you're engaging a part of your body that you haven't done so for a while. So make the movement smaller. Don't necessarily come up to your shoulder nests. Come a little lower until you find that eases here. But in time, slowly start to do a few that are a little higher, and then go back. And when you feel slight discomfort, then don't work through it. Don't push through any barriers. Reduce your 70% to whatever it needs to go to so you're comfortable. Okay. That's just the physical aspect of these movements, not necessarily the energetic side of the movements. And we're going to get onto the energetics, the chi side of things later on in this course. But you need to, I believe it's better to learn what we're doing and why we're doing these things first, and then we can start adding the subtleties of the energetic side. So what I'd like to do now is do movements, movement 1, and we transition effortlessly into movement 2, the flying hands. So together, just a few of each, just to close out this session. So let's stand in Wu Chi. Connect your 3 treasures. If you can, remember to connect the tongue to the roof of your mouth. Just for you, Andrea, that one. Use the visualizations with your feet, your legs, the sand, the earth, the buoys. Let's transfer, play with the distribution of weight, center of gravity, plumb line. Allow yourself to be held by the outer ocean. Breathe. Discover your chi. Guided by your breath, compressing the pearl. Breathe in. Breathe out. Puppet-like, moving your hands through thick air. Let's transition into movement to flying hands. As you exhale, hands come in to finish off the previous movement. Turn your palms, face your thighs, fingers point down, bend your elbows. Let the hands float up, fly away from you. Space in the armpits, breathe in, breathe out. Again, puppet-like, your hands are being lifted by the wrists, palms face your body ideally. Wonderful. Just let your hands float down and rest either side of your body. Space in the armpit. Remember, we create space in the armpits by turning the elbows out, not by lifting your shoulders. We're going to go into a narrow stance now. Shift weight. Move your empty leg. Make the other side full. So this is like mini sloshing. Let's close with 3 extended breaths. Nice long extended inhale without forcing. Extended exhale, just bringing everything down into your lower dantian, settling it in there, storing the jing. Lock your thumbs gently. Place your hands on your lower dantian. Sink your mind into your belly, into your lower dantian, and breathe. And let's bow out. That's class. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that was informative and inspiring for you. Please send me any sort of immediate questions you may have on the live chat now. If you haven't found the live chat, it's either to the right of your player screen or sometimes it's underneath, depending on what device you're using. But as you already have been, and probably more conveniently to use Slack, if you come up with a question a little bit later on thinking how, when, what, when, and support each other, it's really good that you're using that. So fire away with any questions that you may well have now. Sometimes takes a little while for me to receive your questions. I'm glad, Andrea, you found it helpful. So we'll just wait. Christine, you got a bit dizzy. The dizziness could be probably from the refined breathing. So as soon as, and again, that is really, really common. So just take a moment, you know, before you get, as soon as you start to feel that sense of, oh, you know, I feel a little lightheaded, just stop, just have a sip of water, have a sit down for a couple of minutes. Don't feel like, oh, I've got to do this because Dennis is there doing it now. Just stop. You've got to listen to you, and use, anyone this is for, if you feel like you're just needing to take a moment, watch, hear what I'm saying, and use that as a visual meditation. So you're not letting yourself down by saying, well, I'm just going to take a couple of minutes out here. Please remember, it isn't trying to push through a barrier. We are trying to create a positive habit of being mindful through and with Qigong. And we can only do that if we're kind to ourselves. We've got to learn to be compassionate to ourselves, not push through barriers. So take that seat, watch what I'm doing, and visualize yourself doing what I'm doing. And then in a couple of minutes, if you're ready, you can just get back up and join us again. And actually, if you feel, hang on a minute, you've had enough for this session, you can always go back up and catch up. I'm glad that it made you smile, Andrea. And the flow, yeah, the thing with Qigong is to have that continuous, smooth, flowing energy. We don't want to stop and start. Once we start doing the form, gradually these 30 days progress. We will go from movement 1 to 9 without stopping. Don't let that come across as overwhelming for you. You will slowly learn and release the tensions in the body to allow you to do this. So Louise, yeah, shoulders aching a little bit and you have to remind yourself, absolutely, that's attention training. We are so used to getting these things to do all the jobs for us that they end up living by our ears, and then, you know, everything's locked. The neck, creating tension, headaches. So to learn how to do movement without engaging the shoulders is another skill that you're teaching yourself now. And they, as a result, because you're using different muscles and ligaments and fascia to do that, you are going to feel achiness. It's like getting up in the morning when you feel a little bit achy because your body's been laying down still for some time. You need to just have a movement, and it's that varied movement that will hopefully help in the future. Lots to concentrate on and get into the flow, absolutely, Jackie. Brilliant, Gillian. I'm pleased that you were able to stand for a little bit today. Please remember you're 70%, but it really is worth trying just to do a little bit every day, then sit back down. That's just going to encourage getting strength, not only in your thighs, but in your hips as well. That, you know, this whole area here is really important to our stability and functionality through life. So Bridget's eating beforehand. I seem to find ignoring better if I haven't had a slice of bread today, and it seems like my body has been a bit distracted. Is this so? Brilliant question. Yes. If you have got something in your belly, i.e. food, and because you've not eaten, and it can just be the smallest amount of food, that this, because we're breathing from the belly and we're trying to create internal flow, your body's also working to digest all your food. And if you've had a big meal or a big breakfast, it's going to be really heavy in here, so it will impede on your qigong. So I would advise that you do have a breakfast, you can drink, that's not a problem, just not copious amounts of tea or coffee or water, whatever it is you're having, moderation. But I wouldn't eat, and I know it's the morning, but I would say give at least 45 minutes before you start, if you can. That's the ideal. So I hope that's helped, Bridget. Yeah, just eat 45 minutes before we're going to start class. Don't worry about your typos. It's all good. You should see mine. So it looks like the questions are gradually quietening down. Thank you for joining today's class, for watching today's class, for being part of this this challenge. I can honestly say it is my absolute pleasure in sharing qigong and mindfulness and this new way of living with you. Join the Slack, have a chat. Don't feel that you have to be stuck to it permanently. It's not about that. Just check in there, once a day, twice a day if you want to. I will add in a little PDF there today just about habit energies, just to remind you, because that's a really important aspect. Take good care of yourselves, of each other, keep safe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.